Welcome to the latest edition of Leadership Actually. It's not love, it's leadership actually.
That's it. Although we're getting to love it a lot more. Well, we always loved it, but the love is growing.
I feel very emotional about that.
I do, and totes emotion.
Totes emotion. Welcome, Lisa Powney.
Welcome, Lee Rogers. How are you?
Really good.
Yeah.
Really, really, really good.
Why? What's going on?
I'm just loving these conversations.
Yeah, they're really good. I am really loving it.
Some
this
of
is
the
like
guests,
what we do for fun.
I know. but actually, some of this is about hearing people what they take from it. I love those conversations where they've gone, oh, I'm on the train or I'm listening to you, and people repeating like in different episodes on what they've taken. Because whilst we're like the host or whatever, it's more about the guests that we bring on and the insight that they create for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been doing a bit of plotting, haven't we, as well, around where this could go and what we're doing. So we're always like that, don't we? Well, we're very creative though, so whatever happens with it, I don't know. But yeah, that's got me really excited as well.
I know, I think we need to take a bit of what Chris was talking about in terms of like the plan and the structure and the strategy. We take some of that and then we'll see where it goes.
We could talk all day about the world, what we're going to do, conquer the world, but...
You have to earn the right.
You do.
You have to earn the right.
So yeah, we're doing a bit of the work in that space, definitely.
How's Fred?
Oh, he's good. He's ever so good. He's very excited because it's his birthday. And I've shown you on my phone, it's literally got pages and pages of Marvel characters. And there's like, at least I can't keep up, it's like 20 a day that he wants. I don't even know what he's got in his Marvel bag. I can't even work it out. So yeah, we're all marvelled out, and we've got that dilemma that he doesn't really know what he wants to do for his party, and I'm trying to come up with loads of ideas, but it's getting close as well. When you get in the pressure, mums are sending, messages about birthdays that are, after Freddie's, and he's still getting an invite. So yeah, getting a bit of party stress.
What's that all about? Party stress? Is that a thing?
Because he won't decide what he wants to do. And I keep coming up with these ideas, and then he wants like really creative. So can we have a party where we have an arcade, where we do some activities, we do some Marvel crafting, and then some Marvel characters come, and I'm like, in what world does that happen? So yeah, he's giving me some dilemmas.
Oh.
But he's all good. He's all good. Thank you, Lee. And all good at home?
Yeah, all good. I think I've got some brownie points in the bag, so I often say my wife's a lucky lady.
Yeah.
I've said that for 13 years. I'm not sure she fully agrees with that.
Has it gone in yet?
Possibly not. Ella's got a Smith's catalogue that's circled like virtually every page, but she said really proudly, she said, "You know what, Dad?" I said, "What?" She said, I've not done everything this year. I've only done a little bit less than everything, so I'm making progress and I'm growing up now."
Love her. She is growing up. I love that, yeah. But we used to love that, Argos catalogues.
Argos catalogue, who remembers them? Bit of nostalgia.
Yeah, that really brings it back.
Rubik's Cubes?
Yeah, definitely. I never did got that. That wasn't me. Just throw it in there.
I unpeeled them and just put them on. Don't tell anyone.
No.
We could natter all day. Should we bring our esteemed guest today?
Yeah, let's. I'm very excited.
Okay, let's bring on Laura Pomfret.
Hi, Laura. Come in. Yeah.
Drum roll, all the audience. Thank you for having me, guys.
Oh, thank you for coming. We're very excited. Thank you for being here.
It is very exciting, isn't it? So what have you done this morning?
So, yeah, I do take it for granted. I have broadcast to over 1.3 million people on BBC One, basically just having a laugh with my friends and forgetting that you're being recorded and sitting at the breakfast bar chatting away with copious amounts of tea and coffee. So yeah, I've done that this morning, and then kindly was invited by you guys to come for a chat, which is I've got extra makeup on and I'm in my cozies though. I was definitely in telly shoes and telly dress, and in Manchester in October it's not really the done thing.
Definitely not. Well, wow, how exciting is that?
What week? 200 people max? 1.3 million sounds good.
Definitely, the sky's the limit, absolutely. So how do you know each other?
So we've been to the gym together. I go to the gym currently with Laura's mum.
Wow.
And I've got to tell you, your mum's really proud of you. And your sister, actually, for all that you do, and that's amazing. But my wife knew Laura at a previous company. So yeah, it's just been organic really, and then we appeared at a university when we were on Dragon's Den style judging panel.
Yeah.
And then Laura's talking about her app that no doubt she'll go into today. So
amazing. Well, tell us a bit more about Laura, and then we'll ask a question.
For sure. So Laura, she's a phenomenon, right? So
you can't do that in front of me. We're all British, like we're all dying of. Yeah, we should be more American about it, shouldn't we?
Yeah. Well, you know, like she is incredibly driven, I think is fair to say, but with a human element and really just aiming and focused at what she wants to go and get, but takes people with her in a really human way is how I would describe it. But actually, if you see her kind of off screen in the community, it's that bit, you know, the heart and the essence of being locally where we live. So, you know, huge thank you from me for coming on and just sharing your kind of leadership journey. And I know something you like, elements that you're really passionate about, Lisa, so probably more about finance in the world that you understand a lot more, and about female empowerment and female leadership. So yeah,
definitely
those areas.
Can't wait to dive in.
It's important though, isn't it?
Yeah,
like money
absolutely.
And stuff.
Money, yeah, and we kind of we don't like it, do we? You know, talking about money.
No, especially the Brits don't. It's a very private thing. You know, we don't talk salary. We don't talk about how much money we've got in our bank accounts. Like we'll all make private observations of like family friends, like how are they affording that, and why are they not struggling, or oh, they're going on a nice holiday, or you know, you are facing number struggles at home, which happens to any salary level, by the way, you know, whether it's senior management team and above, or whether it's like entry level pay, everyone struggles. In fact, sometimes the more you get paid, I was literally speaking to someone about this morning, the further you can fall when the commitments are higher and the finances are higher. So it does impact all of us, but we don't talk about it a lot. And then when we do talk about it, it probably is limited to like maths rather than how money actually makes you feel. Because I think that's people might want to be a millionaire, or want to have £10,000 saved up, like it's all numbers. But that £10,000 is useless if it doesn't bring you peace of mind, whereas £1,000 might bring you peace of mind. It's all about how you feel.
Wow, I can't wait to dive into that. But we always start with a bit, we call it the messy class, not the master class. And so we always start with that kind of question. So was there a point when we talk about money where you felt personally this is broken or this has had to change, which has probably navigated where you are now? Kind of help us get in that mindset.
Definitely. So I am not qualified in finance. So I speak to 1.3 million people once a week about money, and I am not qualified like formally.
Yeah.
And I think what that says is that the system is a little bit broken, because it's taken someone from the outside to objectively look at a system and go, why do we explain it like this? Or why do we require people to know so much? Or why do we labour what's needed to be understood? Or why do we overcomplicate it so much that it puts people off? And so I think, you know, throughout my journey, and like a skill set that I built up when I was in private practice law first, and then I went in-house as a lawyer for a travel tech business, was take something that's inherently complex or industry specific or quite prescriptive. And it's like the mum test, really. It's if you described it to your mum, you know, and my mum's very intelligent, by the way, but how, you know, it's not about dumbing it down, but like in a sentence, how can you describe it? And I felt like in law, I built up a real skill set of communication, which was, okay, you think this is what it is, but this is what it really is. And this is all you need to know for this bit. Don't worry about everything else. This is what you need to know. And I kind of realised that even, you know, the great Martin Lewis, who is a big, you know, idol of all of ours, especially in the UK, but he does still make things quite complicated. His website is absolutely overwhelming. And so it made me realise people don't understand what they just about need to know. So is there an opportunity to let them know just enough?
Yeah.
It's a bit like with like fitness, Lee, like when we only need to be told what to do in that session. You don't have to know all the physics, you don't have to know all the biology, you don't have to know all the mechanics of why we do a particular movement. The PTs tell you just enough, because in a 45-minute session, that's all you've got. It's like in finance, like why do we expect people to learn everything and you know all the ins and outs? Why don't we tell them just enough so that then they can get on with the day and they don't have to be a finance expert? And so I think that's the messy class, which is it was being made so much more complicated than it needed to be, and there was a gap for it.
Yeah, and that, I guess that's for everybody, but you're called Financielle, and there's quite a lot of female leadership in what you do.
Yeah.
Why women? Is that a target? Other than you are one.
Yeah. Well, the hilarious thing was it wasn't a target at first. Financielle was an anonymous Instagram account that I set up on maternity leave. And it's because I've been on a money journey where I'd become a single mum quite young and had like a graduate legal job and no money to show for it. Like I would spend more than I made in a month. I had the nice apartment in Manchester. I liked to go out for dinner. I had the nice gym membership. I had the financed car. I was pretty much normal until I was in a situation where I was like, oh my God, I am responsible for someone else and I've nothing to show for it. And so I went on a money journey for around, like 7 to 8 years, turning what is like, 25 grand's worth of consumer debt and car debt and credit cards and stuff into, quite a high positive net worth. And while I was on mat leave, like people used to say to me, like, you're not stressed about money. Like when we all talk about it, you just don't seem stressed. I didn't show off, and I certainly wasn't the wealthiest, but I just seemed at peace and seemed chill. And I used to help people with their like structuring of money and how they manage it. And I decided to start an Instagram page. So if you scroll down to the Financielle Instagram, the very, very, very first post is a quote which is, "Today, baby girl, we're going to change the world." And it was actually me and my second child, because we were on mat leave together and she was a 6-week-old. I'd just like completed a massive deal at work. I literally gave birth the day after the deal finished. It was hilarious. The CEO was not best pleased that I stayed as long as I did. And he was having kittens more than I was having a baby. But I was bored and I had a lot to give and I couldn't give at my job because it just literally was intense and then stop, you're on mat leave. And so we started the Instagram account and it was just all quotes and it was not my face and it was not me telling people how I speak now with my face, but it was the same. And long story short, over 2 years of that process, this was pre-Financielle started, it was attracting women. Yeah. The demographics, the insights on the socials was 90% female, and so basically you follow the customer, and the customer was a woman, and it unpicked loads of things like the gender pay gap and issues with the gender pension gap, which starts when women tend to have children, financial control, and people that don't always have access to money get stuck in relationships, get stuck in jobs that they hate, loads of different elements to managing money as a woman. Yeah. So the secret is, or the truth is, it did not start off as female. It was Financielle because I was a woman, and I had a nickname called Elle because I was Laura, and then we've got over 250,000 downloads from women globally now.
Wow, that is such an inspiring story, but also really resonates. I've been in a lot of those situations myself and see some of that navigation and how different it can be. So what is our relationship with money? Because when we dive into it, or you dive into it, there's a lot about the human side, and we talk about financial, but actually a lot of that is the way that we associate ourselves with money. So what's your view or thinking in that space?
I think so. The big thing that we were taught very early in business is speak to your customer, and don't just, not with like a self-interest, tell us about the product, tell me what you like, which buttons do you like, which features do you like. The true customer interview, which did derive out of the US and out of tech startups, is ask them, it's called a jobs to be done theory. So it's like, how are you? Where are you at in your life? What are you trying to do? What are you looking for? Why are you struggling with that? So we do customer interviews. We do 1 to 2 a week. We record them. Holly, my sister's amazing at them. I can't help but then start to want to fix the problems and that we chat about. And she's like, will you just let them speak? And so we get transcripts of these calls. We do not summarize. We do not use ChatGPT for it. And we use quotes. And so we take quotes and we spot patterns across all our interviews. And the number one thing that our customers say to us is, I'm shit with money. Word for word, I'm shit with money. In fact, that's probably on a lot of our content, our socials, because it resonates, because that's the language that our customers are using. And I think it's because the bar is set so high on managing finance that they presume the shit. They just presume that they fall so far below what is actually required when they don't. But society's telling them that women are big spenders and bad with money, and that you don't have enough, and that you're irresponsible, and that you're not investing but you should be investing, and that you should be starting a business but it's too hard to raise funding as a female founder, so don't start a business. It's just all, it's there's so many elements to it where the confidence just ends up being so low when it comes to managing the money, and that's the biggest thing that people say to us. And so our biggest job is to kind of flip it around and kind of poke back and go, okay, well, are you? And is it any wonder, you know, you're getting targeted with 40,000 ads every single day, and you're being pressured to look a particular way, and you're being paid less whilst doing this. So is it any wonder? Like, can you understand why the system may not be set up for you to succeed? And when they start to go, actually, I'm not that bad, you know, or if you did these 2 things, 3 things, how much better would you feel? Would you feel better? And you start using that language, that feel, rather than it going to the numbers and the actual maths, and their mindset changes. It really does.
Wow, it's like coaching, you know. It's a
bit like therapy. It's like, you know, non-qualified and absolute, you know, in terms of it's not mental health therapy, but it's all connected because it is a mindset thing. You guys will talk about this like so much with some of the amazing guests that you have on, and how something is framed. And if you can frame something different to someone, they've had a limiting belief for so long about a particular skill set or a particular, you know, my mum were bad, or, you know, someone at work, but you just flip it and they go, oh, and suddenly they get confident. And then that's the second thing. It's once you realise that they're not as bad as they think, they have confidence to take it in a positive direction, rather than like a self-destruct mode, which is, I'm shit anyway, may as well spend my bonus, you know, I'm rubbish anyway, there's no point going for that pay rise, I'm only going to spend it.
Yeah.
I use that quite a lot, actually, the flip. I love you've said that, because often it's like, don't accept the status quo. You know, a bit of the work I've been doing in a similar vein is, and get a little bit frustrated at the limited progress we're making, is how do we really accelerate gender equity? You know, on a profound different level to what we're doing today. So you talked before about the gender equity pay gap, and I think there's economic research that says we're not going to get there, we're not going to close the gap till at least 2050. And I'm sat here going, that doesn't feel right. You know, as an ex-director of people, and, you know, and having an 8-year-old daughter, that's not good enough.
No.
How do we start to close a gap in a fundamental way? Because until we do that, you know, we're going to get nowhere near gender equity.
No, that's so true. And actually, like I said, the stats are heading in that direction, but we love championing allies, especially male allies, but also companies. You know, Pension Bee did a great report on why is there a gender pension gap? Like, explain it to me. And so there's a couple of different things. One of them is pay. So where there's a pay gap, then the contributions by default are smaller going into a woman's pension. I think there's £250,000 difference on an average pension between men and women. So it's absolutely crazy. But then women also tend to do part-time jobs or multiple part-time jobs, perhaps around childcare if they so choose to have children, or they could be caring for parents. Or they're just leaning towards these more part-time roles, and auto-enrollment doesn't necessarily kick in on the jobs that are 10 grand and under. So you could have an individual on 20 grand a year and an individual on 2 sets of 9,000 a year, and the latter one may not be contributing into a pension at all, or be getting contributions from an employer because they just slip under the radar. It's something that they're complaining about, but then that compounds. And so when you go from, you know, being in your mid-20s, mid-30s to then being in your 60s and 70s, that makes a massive difference. What I like doing, as you just highlighted, Lee, is then going, okay, well, so that's it. So we're just going to accept that. And what we talk about, for example, is when families, especially couples, are doing a budget, pension contributions are an item to be discussed. And if, for example, you have a male, we're talking about a typical relationship here, obviously, but a more common higher male earner, let's say they're on 100 grand a year and there's a woman on 25 grand a year working part-time, their pension contributions are going to be different. So in the family budget, you can top hers up, because if you're paying for Netflix and if you're paying for the water bill and you're paying the council tax and you're paying for a holiday, why is it not just a line in a bill? And so many people go, of course. And like, you know, any couple, even if you don't have combined finances, can logically assume that, of course, why wouldn't we? Just because you earn more, why don't we could still both contribute equally, especially if you're married, which is a whole different angle to it. But these solutions that kind of flip something on its head and go, well, you and your family could close the gender pension gap. You could equalise how much both parties are putting in.
Even thought about that.
And that's so important, right? Because I always think of it as an ecosystem. You've described that way better than I've ever done, to be honest. But it is that ecosystem, and therefore it takes the ego out of,
Mine.
Who earns more?
Mine, yours.
Yeah.
Who's more important because of what you bring in?
A power dynamic. There doesn't need to be that, because
Yeah.
it's actually there's variance in time and roles. You know, I'm now creating my own consultancy, and as a result, there's not that consistency.
Yeah.
There's
And the
not
dynamic's
that,
switched.
Of course it does, but there's no ego to go, I now earn less and therefore I feel less value or worth. It's always been an ebb and flow. And equally, how do you celebrate women that are doing amazingly?
Yeah, and not have, you know, you see it, you read sometimes that males can be emasculated by not being a lead earner, and actually we need to create an environment that's safe for men to feel comfortable in, you know, not being the breadwinner, and that your value isn't connected to the income that you bring in. And I mean, I do know, I'm not going to compare my husband and myself to the Obamas, but Michelle Obama talked about how you can't both have it all at the same time. You can switch, and for a while she was the lead partner in a Chicago law firm, and he wasn't. And then when he started to grow his political career, the minute it tipped into past, I can't remember, it was a senator or a representative, but when he tipped into actually a presidential campaign, it was her turn to step off. Now he actually is doing a lot less and she's doing way more. And myself and my husband went through that. You know, I was the breadwinner when we first met, in terms of just happened to earn more money, even though he was working 2 jobs. Then I went on maternity leave, had an awful maternity leave policy, and so suddenly he was the earner and I literally was contributing virtually zero. I started a business, so went to, like, just like you, Lee, went to absolutely zero and had to start slowly working our way up, and we had to agree as a couple that. And then there was a time where he got me redundant and we had to navigate that. And when the ego's out of the room, it's easier said than done, because a relationship has to be in a good enough place for that. But you can have each other's backs without fully combining money, but without saying, you know, you have to give money to each other. It's just more come at it. There's different chapters of your life.
Yeah.
And
like a team, aren't you?
Like a team, because do you know what? Again, coming back to what I said at the beginning about how you feel, makes you feel better. You don't stress about it as much because you don't have so many worries and so many anxieties. You just kind of go, no, this is now and this is how we tackle it.
And how does that translate then into the leadership piece around being a CEO of Financielle and how you show up at work?
I think the customer is just at the centre of everything we do. Like, we've got it's not a mission statement because we're a bit too scrappy for that. We've got be scrappy, be bold, and remember why we do this. And so be scrappy is like, don't wait for things to be perfect, because we are a growing startup. You know, we've had a couple of rounds of like early seed investments. We do have some investors, but they're incredibly supportive. We want to scale, and we want, what drives us is we know our shit works, and so we need to get into the hands of more women, and so therefore we need to grow. And so, but let's not wait for it to be perfect, because we have been there where you wait and wait and wait and you don't do something, and if you'd have just done it, you'd have learned along the way. So be scrappy, and be bold is like go toe to toe with some of the biggest names in the industries. You know, sometimes we were named Apple's App of the Day above Starling Bank. Like, I'll take that. You know, we are side by side in the App Store with companies that have hundreds of millions of pounds of capital to put behind things. And the last one is remember why we do this, because it is incredibly hard running a business. And, you know, when it's small, you're wearing lots of different hats. When you're senior, you are responsible for motivating the team and getting them to show up as their best selves. And you might not feel like that one day. But the customer interviews, we've got a channel on our Slack called Wins, #Wins, and it's either something that someone said in a customer interview. We've got a community in the app, so that's just daily, like, vitamins of how amazing, like these nuggets of, I've just done this, you've helped me with this, thank you Financielle. And that helps to, one, refocus strategy, because it's like, okay, we need to keep doing things that helps people. You know, we need not be self-serving. We need to do, because if we do what they want, it'll be fiscally great. Commercially, it's a great idea because customers want it. But it also helps you if things are a bit tough. You go, yeah, but if we weren't here, what would that woman have done? What would that family have done? What would that child have done had we not been there?
So purpose really is resonating through what you're saying.
Yeah, but in such like a demonstrable way. Like, I think we're really lucky that there is a financial and a numerical benefit to what we do. Like, in our app, we've got a net worth tracker, and we've got about 4,000 paying premium members, and every month we nudge them to track their net worth, and that's logging all their assets and their savings and their pensions and logging their debts.
Yes.
And they do, and it's all anonymized for us, but we see a figure. So that net worth of our community goes up every month. And so it's demonstrable, like it literally does that. So it's purpose driven, but like evidence based. It's literally, we can see a number increasing, and that is representative of then the quality of life that our community are able to enjoy.
And I'm sorry, because I'm realise I'm asking lots of questions. Just want to go back to one point you said earlier about like the spend element. So we've sort of said about income, but you said earlier the spend, because it affects everybody. This, so like, just because you're a high earner doesn't mean that you don't have money challenges. So I was on BBC Breakfast News. We did a whole thing around this, and I got the absolute ripped out of me for the last 18 months because we talked about cost of living crisis, right? And everyone went, "You live in Croftley, how possibly can you speak about, on the BBC about cost of living crisis?" And our point was, this affects everybody that goes through it. And like I said, new founder, right? So it impacts, but it's also the same for businesses. If you've got high costs, and there's a change or somewhere, or you lose a customer, or someone stole something, it has an impact on a business. So how does that resonate? Does that translate?
It really does. You know, this morning on the BBC we were talking about money management, and I love it when they let me do those because, you know, I like covering anything that's financial, especially if I can help. But I love covering strategy and how someone can watch it and go away and literally do something. And money management is the same. We run our business in the same way. We're a debt-free business. We did get capital investment early on, but now we're profitable, and we work really, really hard to be, and we have to be lean on our expenses, and we need an emergency fund in the business that makes us operate better as founders. But it doesn't mean to say sometimes that tough decisions have to be made, and that it certainly isn't easy. But having this concept of making sure that income and expenditure is in a really good place, and that there's an excess of cash each month, and it's hard to start off that way, and sometimes you have to grind and make that. But I was, you know, speaking to someone this morning, and we were talking about how that excess of cash makes you feel. And so this could be a high earner, it could be a business, it could be someone on universal credit. But if your expenses equal or exceed the money that comes in, no one's going to feel good. Whether you live in a lovely place and you have some nice cars and you go to nice holidays, it's certainly, you do have to come out of it with a certain level of compassion and understanding that, you know, we joke first world problem. It still is a problem, and it can compound much bigger in people on senior leadership teams, you know, especially if like people stay in jobs they don't like, or they don't move jobs because they're so reliant on that money. Like, one of the biggest wins we've had is when a community member can take a job they want and it pays less. It's absolutely game changing when they can manage their money, and they might need a bit of patience, they might need to save a little bit, they might need to cut some costs, they might give back the company car, like there may be some sacrifices, but when they can make it work and they go, I'm literally earning like 10 grand a year less, but I'm like 100% happier, that's a win. Or they've been able to leave to start a business, again, slowly building up to that. It's not easy, but I love it when someone has something actionable that they can go and implement in their budget immediately, and it enables, I mean, we've had like we call them financial babies, the number of IVF babies that have been born to some of our community members who didn't think they could afford the second baby, didn't think they could afford treatment, didn't want to go into debt to kind of have the baby, and then they work out a way to manage their money and go without some things perhaps, and get the thing that changes their life. Like, we've got a few financial babies. I had to tell my husband about them. I was like, don't worry, they're like community babies, they're not mine.
Well, but it's making a real difference, isn't it, to the world? And I guess my question is kind of, in the world of work, you know, and organisations, and we see a lot of leaders who probably are in a job that they don't want to be, and when you go, you know, what would make you move? It's like, financially, I need to stay where I am.
Yes.
And then that has the impact on productivity and, you know, performance and all the rest of it. So there's a real pull for organisations to get involved in this. And there are teachers, when we talk about the world of wellbeing, that some are offering a little bit of education or maybe someone to speak to, you know, as part of their 24/7 helpline around financial wellbeing. What can organisations do, because it's a massive part of our lives, to help with this education and helping people think a bit more effectively about their financial wellbeing?
I think that financial wellbeing is the forgotten wellbeing pillar. I do. I think that many companies, and it's usually people teams that come up with the nice suggestions and the nice support, and it's usually the execs that go, we'll do a pick and mix, and so we'll have like mental health first aiders, and we might have some like wellbeing days, and you can go to your child's first day at school maybe, but no, they kind of stop there. And I do think finance is the forgotten pillar. I have worked in businesses where it's come to light that hundreds of employees have opted out of their pension, and I don't believe that the company have done enough to help the individuals understand financially what that means, mathematically what that means, like you're missing out on a match, and look, if you can't operate with that 5% contribution going out, then you've got a bit of a bigger problem, like, so let's help you get to a place where you can do that. And so these, I was in a situation where people were being offered redundancy, and these ladies have been in the business a long time, no pension, and it's like appalling. And I find it like on the border of employee negligence. I know it's not, but I just find it morally wrong. Whereas if you can speak to, because some people, it's usually when you say, why are you good with money, or why if someone says to me they've got a good pension, I'll say, who told you? Because someone told them, either a partner at work, or an auntie or an uncle. Someone told them, because no one, it's this sweeping statement, but not many people off their own back from an early age actively invest in a pension. Yeah. So that's what, that was a big thing. And I think that employers that can support through financial education, I mean, there's so much free content out there. There's so many courses that a lot of the benefit providers put together. It's not something that we do, and we get asked about it all the time. I'm like, there's enough people out there. If you go looking, there's content. Giving some of the building blocks, I think, to spend their pay slip wisely is one of the greatest gifts an employer can give. And sometimes people, I think, worry that if we teach them how to manage money, they might leave, or they might go for that other job, and then you're not a good enough employer if you think that way. I think there's so much they can do, and I do think individuals speak so highly of bosses or leaders or employers that help support them with those life skills that many of us don't get elsewhere.
Now I set up a wellbeing foundation at a previous company, and it's interesting you talk about kind of the financial pillar of wellbeing. If I'm candid, it was always the bit I knew least about. There was a bit of a fear element of what do we do, because even to get back in, to go, well, to give advice, and the first thing people say is qualifications, regulation, and they might all talk about money, they might all talk about salary, it's not easy. So it's definitely something that is a little taboo. Like, how do you introduce that into the workplace? Like, I'm going to give them a little plug, but Octopus Money, and I know the founder, Ruth Hancock, she's amazing. She's not the founder, the CEO, she's amazing of Octopus Money. They have like a coaching system, and they've got employer benefits where you get an actual coach and a person who is, they're a regulated company, but they're not giving advice, and they help you with that structural money management. There are reputable companies out there that you can bolt on to benefits packages, and I just think it's the right thing to do. They're not doing it in school. I mean, universities, like, I'm always appalled with, because the system sets individuals up to get into tens of thousands of pounds worth of debt. When you're 18, you go to university, you just handed a student loan, but bills come out monthly, but the loan comes quarterly, and no one's going, okay, and usually you've been kind of mollycoddled at home, if you were like me, and like held safely, and you had a little job, but you spent it on clothes. Like, if you've not been given the how to budget lesson, and you suddenly let loose. I mean, I spent my student loan on a ski trip in the first week. Yes, I'll go on that in January. How do I make this work? Then you go into student overdrafts. We've got people that are not just student loan connected, but student overdraft and private student loan based, that they're still in it. They're in a graduate, it's called a graduate overdraft now. I'm like, you're definitely not a graduate in your mid-30s if you went in your early 20s, but they just get set up to fail, and not enough like institutions are taking responsibility for that. So the employer, for me, on a private level, is the next layer of support or structure that could help teach the stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But there are, as you said, lots of layers before that. And my niece, she's just gone to uni, and her budgeting is, I'm just going to live on soup and Weetabix, and then I can spend the rest on going out in clothes.
Listen, we've all done it, but these students have got a cost of living crisis. We didn't have that, a decade and a half ago. So
definitely, but it is a really important layer. But what's your mission? What would you like to see that's different? How are you looking to change things in this space?
Our mission is definitely to help people feel more financially well, and it's like I said, it's not a numerical goal, but if I can change the way that someone feels about their money and give them confidence, I just think they're going to be able to achieve so much more. I'm also like a big fan of leveling up, really. I know it's a big thing to talk about in Manchester especially, but you know, not everyone has a wealthy uncle or the friend at work that taught them early, you know, and we're not all created equally. So some people have privileges and I recognise I'm one of those people that had, you know, parents that helped me out when we were trying to do university, and I had, you know, I said I had a baby young, I moved home for a year and saved up to then buy a home. Yeah. Like, I have had my level of privilege. There are a lot of people that have a lot more privilege than me, but if people can be given some basic structure and basic guidance, it makes their lives better. It enables them to live places they want to live, work in roles they want to work in, have children or not have children, travel, not travel. There's so many different elements. Money is an enabler, whether we like it or not. And so, yeah, with Financielle's mission and my mission, that's what keeps us going. It's like, you know, it's so that wins channel. Like, you could just be having a day where you're like, oh, the tech's not working again. Like, there's just something, at the moment, it's something annoying me in the app, and I'm like, they're not fixing it. It's just not easy to fix. And then you get distracted with that, and then over here someone goes, I'm debt free. Yeah. I've never been debt free. I'm 35. I've been in debt since I was 18. And then you go, oh my God, that person. Then you get so excited for that person, because now she's not got payments, so now she's going to be able to build up more savings, and then she could do this, and then you get so excited, and it reminds you why you do it.
That is fun.
And I think, you know, there's a social mobility piece that you talked about. So even like students, you know, I didn't have student loans. We didn't have that whole burden. It is so much more of a challenge these days because you set up, you know, the system, as people talk about in education goes, go to uni.
Yeah.
You know, and how many people have gone through that track that have then got 50 grand worth of debt, not because they've chose it, but because the system gives them that. And like you say, in their mid-30s now, trying to navigate that whilst it's still increasing because of interest payments versus then the cost of housing. I look at it and I go,
how?
Yeah,
How
like it's
are
not.
Gonna get on the ladder?
And I know parents feel this and going, well, we didn't have that in our day. So we're almost, as a society, not ready or well educated enough to navigate where we're at. And this is just the UK, you know. So there's challenges globally in this space, and I don't know the answers, by the way. That's why we bring, you know. But it's a really interesting dynamic and a really interesting time, I guess, that says, what do we do differently, or is the system right now?
Well, and that's where you need to look at macro and micro. So macroeconomic reality is relatively high interest rates more recently than obviously we've all been used to. A super expensive education system, which, you know, like, I don't like the way Martin Lewis talks about it. He talks about it as if it's a tax and don't worry, and it's not bankruptable, it dies with you, which was just an awful way to explain it. He doesn't actually explain it like that, but just this idea that it's not that bad, when for me, university is an investment decision, and, you know, we know people 70, 80, 90,000 pounds worth of debt with like undergrad degrees in very generic subjects, and then never go on to work in that subject. And where it was, you know, we were New Labour growing up, so we were like, oh, everyone go to university and enjoy it, but it was a lot cheaper. And so you've got that on the one hand. You have like house prices continuing to rise for individuals, having to work out about pension and whether you invest because you're told you should be investing, it being expensive to kind of live generally. And then you want to live your life a bit, and you might want to go shopping at Zara, and you might want to buy some Marks and Spencer's and nicer food once in a while, and you might want to go to Santorini in the summer. So there's the macro, which is I can't change those prices, that's what it is. But on the micro, it doesn't give us an excuse to kind of write it off and go, sod it. You know, I like it when people understand they have options, and we have a podcast as well called The Vault, and it's all driven by dilemmas, and we get hundreds in a month of emails, DMs, of questions that they want us to answer. And most, even though the topics differ, most of them are, I want to do this, and this. I can't afford it. And the answer's always the same, so I don't know why we've got a podcast to just say the same thing over. It's fine. You have to rank those things because we've really, if you try to do everything at once or save for everything at once, you know, I want to get married, I want to buy a house, I want to have a baby, I want to pay off my loan. You can't. So what order would you like to do it in? And we think there's an order, which is get rid of your debt, build up emergency savings, and then do, then what's important, and do it in that order. And when you give someone a bit of a plan and a bit of structure, we love a meal plan, we love a fitness plan, we love being told what to do. And it's not being told where to put your money or what to invest in. It's, you've said you want to do this, pick the order. And people love control, and they love focusing on one thing at a time. And so even if it's like windy and blustery outside, there are things you can do that set you up for success. And so when it comes to, our children, like Ava's 14, I don't know if she does or doesn't want to go to university, and at the moment I'm not actively saving for university for her. We invest into a junior ISA. For each of the kids, we've got a 21 before 21 goal that we want to save 21 grand by the time they're 21, but that will be theirs because it's a junior ISA. Big thing to think about if people are saving for children. If you want to keep hold of it, then it needs to be in your name, otherwise it's theirs. Yes. But once the little one finishes nursery next year, I am going to flip our childcare allocation into a further education saving pot, so that I've got some help and some option. And not everyone's able to do that, but you can make little decisions that help set them up so that they've got options. But it's going to be tough for them. I think I've always felt if you give someone those basic tools of controlling money so that you can control how you feel, then our kids will be fine, because they're all in a similar boat.
Blimey. So much in that. I mean, one thing I will say, so Ella does additional support, right? And she gets like points and rewards, and she gets to choose to spend them, or she can save them up for Amazon vouchers. There are other vouchers available. And she always gets the toy or the tap, as I call it, right?
Yeah, they all do.
And I'd love to go delayed gratification, back to your point as a kind of theme. No chance, it's an instantaneous.
Ooh, I've got a suggestion for you then.
Oh yeah.
So they definitely learn by listening to us as well. So everyone always says, what can I teach my kids? Like, how can I do it with my kids? And it's very difficult because you can't enforce something on them. You can't impose a perspective. But they listen and look. Like, I remember when Ava found out we have a mortgage, she's like, we owe someone money. And I'm like, yes, as does the rest of the world. But she knows we're anti-debt. She knows that we don't have to buy things on finance. She knows that we save up for things in advance. And she's known that since she was born. So she's internalized that. And I was like, oh God, I need to like show that not all debt's bad and that you can't just go buy a house. But on the junior ISA thing is a really important journey for us with the kids, because when we contribute into it, and they've just probably not even realised that we do, but more importantly on their birthdays and on like when the grandparents are feeling a bit flush with an extra 20 quid, or when it's like a Christmas for example sometimes, but birthdays is the big one, or like you've done well in a dance exam or something. Say my parents give them £20, my language is, so how much of it are you putting into junior ISA and how much do you want? And the little one's 3, so he's no idea. But Albie, who's 7, is learning from Ava, and because Ava will go, I'll do half and half, or I don't want it at the moment, or she'll go, I'm gonna use it all in the newsagents in culture and just spend a fortune on rubbish sweets, and I'll go, really? And she'll go, no, actually. And it's this like, let her make the decision, but the question usually is, how much are you putting into each, not what do you want to do with it.
That's a really good.
And he slowly does it, but they're all listening and they all hear the other one, and that's the language. When we do our budget, which we don't talk about finances with the kids in such detail, but we the financial method is, it's a bit like a P&L, and you have an excess at the bottom, and the excess goes to the thing that you're working towards. So is it overpaying debt, is it building up savings, or is it investing? And so they will hear us going, we'll put that extra into pension this month. Last month we were focused on paying off a holiday, so we didn't put anything in. So they can hear us having this, okay, how much goes in?
Yeah.
And the listening and the watching, it slowly does it, but it's amazing how you can make them think that they've made a choice, but they've not. They've had an element of choice, but they still have to split it.
So I use that concept with homework.
Which one would you like to do first?
Or when she
Maths
says,
or English?
Yeah, or when she says, I don't want to do it, I say, okay, no problem. What are you going to say to the teacher tomorrow morning? And all of a sudden, guaranteed, she then flips and goes, right, I'll do it.
You're not the bad guy either, because you were like, fine, no problem.
So if somebody's listening and they are in that position where they are not doing very well or they're struggling, and you've talked quite a lot about some of the principles, where would somebody start? What are the key advice stuff that you would normally say?
One of the biggest things that I love about the BBC and what they let me do is and they're really passionate about their audience's empathy first. It's like giving yourself a break, because I think the self-deprecation or it just doesn't help, and we've just not always been aware, whether it's the system, whether it's our personalities. You know, you may well have talked about ADHD and late diagnosis, and you know, you maybe have talked about someone's upbringing, you know, someone that impacted the way that they do things. Did they save everything because they had a parent with a spending problem, or did they have a really, really frugal parent and then they're a spender because they want to give love? Like, I've seen everything. So I think firstly, checking in with what you like, what's your character like, and how that connects can make someone feel a little better about, it's not just them, it's not just I'm bad with money, I'm shit with money, like I said. So knowing where you're at, because then that's your baseline, and being confident enough to just nail one thing at a time. And as I said earlier, like, you just need to know just enough. Why are we overthinking this? Yeah. You don't need to learn about ETFs and trading in the stock market. You're not there yet. You need to do a budget. You need to live on less than you make, and that's easier said than done. And I always say to people, with your first budget, you're going to get it wrong because you'll forget things. But if you can get to the end of the month and not have gone more into an overdraft, or like spent more on the credit card, if you just break even, you're winning. That's a win. And when have they ever been told that's a win before? Yeah, no. That's an absolute win. And then the next month you might make a little bit more and spend a little bit less, and there's something left over. And for someone that's getting to the end of the month with some money left is game changing. But that breeds confidence. Yeah. So this is not get rich quick. It is a lifestyle change. But you know, we talked at the beginning about fitness, and you and I have both really embraced fitness over the past couple of years. Whether it's through tough work situations, intense family life, getting older and being like, we should be looking after ourselves. Like, you hear so much about longevity, but I think the biggest, I remember like people would say to me suddenly, God, you're looking really well. And I'm like, this has been 2 years of graft. And now you're like, oh my God, you're really fast at that race. And I'm like, yeah, but I was doing it. I just decided that I would do it every day a little bit. It was a lifestyle change. It wasn't a quick, fad diet. It wasn't a intense, I'm signing up for a race and I'm going to run every day. It was slow, very, very slow. And people, that's a bit boring. But it is a lifestyle change. And, my lifestyle when it comes to money now is, at one stage it was paying off debt, another it was building savings, another it was renovating houses. Like, we're all at different stages. The one I'm in now is like investing, and it's giving, like having spare cash to be able to put into causes that are really important to you, invest for your children, invest for yourself, see that happen. That did not happen overnight. That is a very slow and steady. So I think someone embracing a lifestyle change, and that you don't have to be perfect. You can spend money. You can make a mistake. You can trip up. And you just get back on and you just do it the next day.
Yeah.
I think you describe like the messy class of leadership in that, right? Not every leader's perfect. We absolutely make mistakes constantly.
Yeah.
You've talked something there about the consistency that's important, isn't it? It's not just the picture poster at the end, it's the process that gets you to there, whether it's promotion or a job. It is doing the hard yards that isn't, like you say, sexy or like celebrated per se. So I think there's so much in that, even from a leadership aspect, that a lot of people watching this and listening to this will take from it.
I think, Laura, you're doing an amazing job. It is a message that everybody needs to know and feel more of. Personally, having heard a lot of that, I resonate. I'm triggered a lot of that stuff. It's kind of got, I probably said some of those things, been a single mom, been in that position, and I just think it's a really important message, because otherwise it drowns you and makes you feel like you can't move forward, and you're giving people the way to make a difference, but not promising the world of manifestation or there is some work that needs to be done, but it can be done and gives people hope. So I think that's just fantastic.
Oh no, thank you so much. Like I said, it's so community driven, which is a word that's used quite a lot, but positive stories breed more positive stories. If we share a win, and we do it on our pod a lot, we do it in the community, or if someone shares it, like you see people grow over years. Like this is, again, it's a grind. It's about being consistent. It's about snakes and ladders, I call it. Sometimes you move forward and then you go down a snake, and that's life hitting you. And I think if you can just keep being consistent, the default is you will get ahead. And you know, I always the power of story. You know, this is why your podcast is so impressive, because someone can hear a story and you just don't know. Like someone could be listening to this now and going, right, I'm going to do a budget, like I'm going to do that, and I'm going to be consistent, and then in 2 years time something could have happened. You know, the business started, a new job promotion, leaving a role that someone doesn't like. You've got to give confidence. It starts somewhere, but it's the power of story that can really inspire you to think, if they can do it, why can't I?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I always think back to series 1 episode 4 with Chris Brindley, and he talked about the 24/7/31 approach. And it's like, what can you do today? Back to that point, if you're listening to this, what action will I take that gets me on that journey? What will I be doing in a week's time?
Yeah.
You know, and then what would that look like in a month? And what we described in terms of the relation to fitness, it's about getting going sometimes on this stuff. Starting small, not needing to know everything, which you've covered. And then where does it go from there? Equally, like comparing yourself to you.
Oh, 100%.
And your situation and your context.
And not someone else's.
Not everybody. Because the minute you do that and you look externally, you create a whole load of problems that are not related to your context.
And a lot of endurance runners, like people that have done marathons, and in 2014 I did an Ironman on fairly short notice, really. I was working with your wife at the time, probably remembered that was like my midlife, early life crisis. Yeah, go on, I'll do an Ironman. And that's like 24, it's like a marathon, and it's like 102 mile bike or something. It's a 2 mile swim, like it's crazy. And at the beginning of the day, or the beginning of the training for that, if you thought about in total what you needed to do, you probably wouldn't do it, and you just do a 1 kilometre at a time. In fact, in the swim you'd even do less than that. But it's like do you remember GCSE Bite Size? BBC Bite Size was all about breaking up a GCSE into small bite-sized chunks, and you sometimes if we looked at the end result, we wouldn't do it. We'd go, I'm never going to be able to do that. But if you look at what's just in front of you, what's just this week, and not expecting or demanding incredible results from yourself in a short period of time. And I think that's why looking at this as a lifestyle change rather than a figure that you've got to hit, it's so much more enjoyable. And I always say, like, we could all feel more financially well by the end of this podcast. And that's a win, just feeling better. I've not made anyone extra money, I've not given out cash, I've not paid off any debt, I've not invested for people, but just by showing a bit of possibility, showing a bit of a plan, and having someone reframe how they think, literally, you feel better. And anyone can achieve that. You don't have to do something big, and then you just build on it, and it goes from there.
That's amazing.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you know, we've talked a lot today about personal. I think it absolutely relates to a previous guest we've had on, Chris Knight, actually, in looking at how do you scale commercially or scale back commercially. It's the exact same principles, whether it's in your personal life or whether it's in your business context, and being relevant, really. Amazing, thanks for joining us. Hopefully we get 1.3 million views or listeners to this.
Maybe.
Thank you so much for watching and for listening. It'd be great to hear from you, what you've taken from the podcast today. I am going to ask you one final question.
Go for it.
Who should we have in the seat that you're sat in on this podcast around leadership that you could help get us, introduce us to?
I mean, that's too hard a question, Lee, because there's so many different people. I don't even know that many people. But I think whenever I've heard you have like I'm sports driven, so we'll have a think. Maybe someone sporty.
Okay, we'll do it off air. But we'll give you the credit for making that suggestion. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and make sure you subscribe and follow to Leadership Actually, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Next time.